What's up, guys? Jedi Warrior back with another video, and I actually just made a similar video like this for Mortal Kombat 12, and I thought it'd be interesting if I made a video like this for another franchise. If you've been watching my channel for a couple of years, you know, thanks to Spark27, I am a Smash Brothers fan. I'm a huge Smash Bros. Fan. I wanted to make a hypothetical roster for the next Smash Bros. Game. I doubt there will be one. There's been several clones since then. But in case there is, I wanted to throw out a roster of the characters I would want on that game. And a lot of them that stuck around, I made changes to. So let's get started. I went with 100 characters. The last one had 84 after all the DLC. And that's counting the Mii Fighters, which I took out. Actually, I wasn't going to do 100. I was actually going to stick with the 81 minus the Mii Fighter. Actually, 84, because they're with the Mii Fighters. And then I just got carried away. And by the time I was done with the main Smash roster, I was like, you know what? Let's just do 100. So, here we go. Number 1, Mario. Obviously, he's the face of he's the face of Nintendo. He would have to stay. But I made some changes. I wanted to change his down B to his cape instead of a side B, but I wanted to replace the side B with a Cappy toss. They brought Cappy into Smash Ultimate with his taunts, and I think his up B shows it. But I think it would be cool if he throws the hat, and it'd be very reminiscent of Kung Lao from Mortal Kombat. And that's a move he does in Mario Odyssey. Also, I wanted to change his double jump to Yoshi, because I took Yoshi out, because I don't like Yoshi in Smash Bros. His down air is the one good thing about him in that game, other than his recovery. Number 2, Luigi. Obviously, brother to Mario. He needs to be in the same game. His fireball, I wanted to change to a move using the Poltergeist, where you could switch between fire, ice, and water, kind of like Sora. And then they need to make a Mr. L alt for Luigi. I don't know why it's not already there. Number 3 is Peach. Replace the turnip with a wheel, kind of like Shulk's Monado Arts, using the emotions from Super Princess Peach. I thought it would be a pretty cool incorporation for a move list, something that is not really represented in Smash. And also from that game, Perry the Parasol needs to be her up special, the float. And then, put the turnip on the side B and replace her dash attack with what used to be the side B. The very katana square wave hip bump move. Put that as her dash attack. Number 4 is Rosalina and Luma. Representing the Mario Galaxy game, I think she has earned her place. She needs to stay. And she's by far a fan favorite in the past few years. I would change her down B, the item draw, the item gravitation, since one thing is I don't play with items on. I sometimes play with moderate items on. I have certain items that I like, the melee weapons and stuff. But the trophies and everything else, they have grown annoying to me. So I turn items off, which makes that move useless, which is why I don't play Rosalina. I have a whole move slot that can't be used since I don't use items. So I wanted to change it to a counter using Luma that has limited uses, because Luma would be killed. And then change her final smash to using the observatory somehow. her final smash is just kind of garbage, really. Number 5, Bowser, the eternal menace of Mario. I would change his fireballs to kind of like a Ridley fireball with the stream of them instead of just the constant fire breath, because it's more like what he does. The shock B, or the shock wave for down B, I would change it to like the entire screen, since it's a ground pound kind of thing, or a stomp really, but I would make it have a shock wave like a ground pound. And then for his final smash, instead of turning into Giga Bowser, I would update it to change into Fury Bowser. Number 6, Bowser Jr., the Koopa Kid. The only thing I would change on him is his up air. I would change it to a wand toss. Number 7, Piranha Plant. I'm leaving him just as is. I almost replaced him with Toad. I will say that, because, I mean, Piranha Plant is an iconic enemy. But he was just kind of out there when he came out. I almost replaced him with Toad. Number 8, since I didn't use Daisy, I took Daisy out because despite the fact that she represents a certain few Mario games and more the Mario sports games, she's just a Peach clone. I say either rework Daisy or leave her out of the next game. Though I love Daisy, so that cut kind of hurt. I actually played Daisy over Peach. Number 8, I replaced Daisy with Geno. Yeah, that wasn't self-explanatory there. Also, I took Dr. Mario out, so I could have thrown Toad in here, but I didn't. I would have Dr. Mario as an alt for Mario, not a separate character. That was a mistake, as is. Number 9, Donkey Kong. The only thing I would change on him is his side B. I would change to a barrel toss to give him a projectile, because that's one thing Donkey Kong could use. I played some matches against my good buddy Spartan, or Noah. I played his King K. Rool a couple times during a tournament, and I consistently got walled out. I couldn't approach. Couldn't even approach through the air because he would up air me. Donkey Kong could use a projectile. Number 10, Diddy Kong. Ice Climbers duo with Diddy. Or with Dixie. I think either Dixie would need to be an Echo Fighter or the Ice Climber style where they're two on the same character. Seeing as I only had 100 characters, I went with the Echo Fighter. Or not the Ice Climbers duo. Number 11, King K. Rool. The main villain of the DK franchise. I think he has earned his place. His extreme fan demand, and I could not see cutting him out. Number 12, Banjo-Kazooie. Major franchise. There was a lot of fan demand for him, and he's the only character from his franchise, so I couldn't cut him without replacing him, and he is the face of the franchise. It's actually named after him, so. Number 13, Wario. Another character I think has earned their place. Second to Wario, I had two choices here. It was either Ashley or Waluigi, and I think you know which one I went with. Welcome to the fight, Waluigi. Hopefully. What are you doing, Nintendo? Why is this man not in this game? Shameful. 15 is Link. I could not take out my boy, and Link is an icon at this point. I have some changes I would want to make to him. I think for his side B, the boomerang, it should be the Gale Boomerang from the Legend of Zelda, which I don't think it should do that normally. I think if you miss as it comes back to Link, it should pull the opponent into Link. Up B, using Rivali's Gale to fly up to recover. And I would change the spin to his down smash, which makes it more accurate to the Legend of Zelda game anyway, where it's just one spin. Down B, I would change to the rune ability cycle because he uses the runes for more than bombs. Last update, I would change the double jump to his glider, which could be abused like the old glide mechanic, but I think it's worth it. He got some love in Ultimate with the Breath of the Wild rework with the bombs and the costumes, but I think he deserves a little more with that game. 16, I took out Young Link because between Young Link and Toon Link represents 3 games, Young Link only represents 2. One of those we already have Sheik and Ganondorf representing. But for Majora's Mask, the one representation we would lose, I added in Skull Kid. 17 is Toon Link. I had some changes I would make to him. I would have an arrow cycling system by pressing Shield and B to change your arrows. Boomerang replaced with a Wind Blast from the Wind Waker, kind of like Mii Sword Fighter's Neutral B. 18 is Zelda. You don't need to change. Zelda is fun in Ultimate, whatever anyone tells you. Zelda's fun. She's annoying, if purely by the voice clips, but she's fun. 19 is Sheik. She has not used that dagger except for one time in Ultimate, and that's the beginning of her final smash. Try to incorporate that some more somehow. 20 is Ganondorf. I completely reworked Ganondorf. I kept all the sword moves for the smash attacks and everything, but side B, I would do a cape swing. Neutral B would be the dead man's volley projectiles. Levitate recovery instead of whatever that is. And then for down B, I would use like a charged sword slash. So he'd be a pretty stationary character who would lose his mobility inside B. But I think it's worth it. I would take a canonically accurate Ganondorf over any of these changes. 21 is Samus. Back in Brawl, when Project M was released, the mod for Brawl, they changed Samus's charge shot to from fire to ice, like you could change it between the two. I would incorporate that. 22 is Dark Samus and 23 is Ridley. I don't think those need to change at all. Maybe change Dark Samus up for not being a clone of Samus, but I don't have anything planned for how you would do that. I took out Zero Suit, and I'll explain why in a minute. Or in a bit, I should say. 24 is Kirby. I had an issue with one of his taunts. He does not have the hi taunt. Why not? I mean, well, he has the taunt, but it's not the right one. 25 is Meta Knight. Nothing wrong with him, except maybe the fact that he's too light, but I think he's supposed to be. 26, DDD. The King DDD. Instead of just using the Gordos for his side B, where he just straight up plays golf with them, I would give him the ability to cycle between Gordos, Waddle Dees, and Waddle Doos by pressing Shield and B, because that's a decent way to change it. And here's the kicker. While on Waddle Dee, DDD has a chance of throwing Bandana D, which would do way more damage. Or, if you want to go crazy, it would be an insta-kill, which would put the fear of God into the hearts of every opponent DDD faces. That might be a little too overpowered. 27 is Fox. Nothing wrong with Fox. I love Fox. 28, Falco. Bring back Melee Falco. He was broken in Melee. 29 is Crystal. I added her into this roster because I like Crystal, and Falco, Fox, and Wolf, they're all Echo Fighters of each other. Crystal would not be that, so I think Star Fox could use a little variety. 30 is Wolf, and my only issue is His, I think it's his side taunt, because his up taunt is the howl. Why did the brawl taunt was way cooler when he says, "What's the matter? Scared?" You can't. This taunt in Ultimate, you can't even hear it. Like, you always taunt after you KO somebody, which makes an extremely loud noise. Then you have the crowd cheering. So when you do that, you can't even hear the taunt, which is why I always use his up taunt with the howl, because I freaking love that taunt. 31. Pichu. And I had a thought, or idea, really, with the Pokemon, that maybe, like, as the fight goes on, or as they take more damage, it would either be based on percentage or time, the Pokemon would evolve. So you'd start with Pichu. Maybe after you take like 25% damage, you evolve into Pikachu. After you take 50, you change into Raichu. And it would be cumulative, so you wouldn't have to take 25 and then take 50 more. It would stack. So that would leave you with Pichu, who evolves into Pikachu and Raichu. Also with Pikachu, his Pika taunt is way too short. They need to bring back the longer taunt for Pikachu or Pichu. So that would leave you with Pichu, Jigglypuff, who her up taunt, she used to wink during that, and I don't know why they took it out. That made that taunt way funnier. Bring that taunt back. 32 or 33 is the one character where the evolution mechanic would not apply, and that is Mewtwo. The only thing I would change on him is his teleport. I would change to like a hover move. 34, Squirtle. I'll run through the rest of these. Ivysaur, or Bulbasaur, I mean. Charmander, Riolu, which, since Lucario only has 2 evolutions that I know of, he would evolve into Lucario at 50. Actually, you know what? I think he would evolve into Lucario at 25, and then he would just gain more aura going up. Next would be Froakie for Greninja, and Litten for Incineroar. I would give Incineroar more fire attacks. He just fights like a wrestler, which is fine. Incineroar is insanely fun, but he doesn't really fight like a fire type. But if you left him, I added in 2 more fire types. I added in, my original was Blaziken, and I think Blaziken's lowest evolution is Torchic. I could be wrong about that. I have not looked. But I added in Torchic and Scorbunny for a Gen 3 and Gen 8 rep that we were missing. We didn't have a Gen 8 or Gen 3 rep. We don't have a Gen 5 either, but I don't care for that gen, and I don't know who else you would put in for Gen 5. But I added in those 2, and those 2 are fire types. So you could leave Incineroar like he is and just make those the fire types. 42, Ness. Between Ness and Lucas, because I kept both of them, there are more PSI abilities that you can use in Earthbound and Mother that they don't give these to. I think spread them out and fill in the open slots with different PSI abilities. That way they don't feel so resemblant of each other. 44, Pit. I love Kid Icarus. Kid Icarus Uprising is so good. It's also hilarious. So 44 is Pit. I would bring back the 3 Sacred Treasures. Final Smash. 45, Dark Pit. I would replace the Neutral Bee with the bow. I would replace that with the Sniper Staff Shot. Glide Brawl mechanic for this guy to insinuate that he can fly longer than Pit can. And it would only be gliding off his up B. And then I would give him the Lightning Chariot Final Smash that Pit has. 46, Palutena. I would give her Pitt's old Centurion final smash since they were her army, after all. And then her, I think it's her down taunt, because her up taunt is the pole spin. One of the taunts when she says ready when you are, she makes the motion of flipping her hair, but she doesn't do it. Why? Yeah, I have written down taunt, so it is down taunt. Why would she not do that? I would add in the hair flip, because Palutena is sassy in Smash Bros. And that would convey that personality way better. 47, these are all characters I added in from Kid Icarus that I like. Magnus. I like Magnus. He's hilarious in some of the comments that he makes in the game. He's a sword fighter, but he's big, so he would be slower. Kind of like Ike. In fact, in the spirit battle for Magnus, Ike represents him. 48 would be Viridi. I think she could be way cooler if you take her out of the confines of a Mii costume. And then 49, Hades would just be fun. And then for his final smash, you're going to have him turn into the Infernal Hades, like he does in the end of Kid Icarus Uprising. 50 would be Inkling. I would have like a weapon cycling system since they use more than just a splatter shot. I would also, like, this may be just me finding irritation with this mechanic. It may be more integral to Splatoon than I realize, but I would remove the ink management because that is so irritating to manage. Or at least let your ink drain less fast. Because as a blind person, I whiff a lot of attacks, which naturally wastes a lot of ink as Inkling, which is part of the reason I don't play Inkling, because I end up wasting a lot of ink. 51, Villager, nothing to change here. 52, Isabelle, I would give her a Digby ult. Don't know why they haven't already. 53, Marth. The dude lost his accent over the years, didn't he? Let's give him it back. Also, they took out the Let's Dance taunt. Unfortunately, that taunt is great. I would give him the accent back and give him that taunt. I think Marth is great. He's very technical in Smash Bros., which is how he's supposed to play. I think they did Marth amazingly. 54, Lucina. Give her bow as her side B. I don't know why they didn't give it to her at all. I was going to replace the neutral B, but that's kind of their mechanic, is the whole tipper thing. Although hers is just like the whole sword. Also, her down taunt where she puts the mask on, why does she take it back off? I would just have her leave the mask on during the taunt. 55, I took out Roy, but I added in another Fire Emblem character. And I took out Roy because, one, he's just a clone. Although I do love Roy. He's way too fast to be that powerful, and he's way too powerful to be that fast. He's just overpowered. I do like Roy, but I took him out because he's probably the least popular of these characters. And also because when he came out in Melee, he debuted in Melee. His game wasn't even out yet. So nobody knew who he was, and he's not that popular now from what I can tell. So I took Roy out. So 55 is Chrom. I would replace his side B with a hand axe toss instead of the dancing blade, because that's another thing he uses in Fire Emblem Awakening, and I'm glad Chrom finally got his chance. He deserves a spot along with his daughter, Lucina, but that's a change that probably should have been made. 56 is Ike, the powerful Fire Emblem character. I would change his neutral B to Ragnell's Aura instead of Eruption, which is basically the same thing, but a low projectile, which would be way more threatening. Which, sadly, you probably never see it because all Ike mains do is Nair. No, I'm not kidding. 57, my girl Robin. I love this character. But, again, being blind, I whiff a lot of strikes. That wastes a lot of my meter for her Levin Sword and her magic. I would either increase the resources or just remove the limit. Robin is widely regarded as a terrible character in this game, and it's also widely mentioned that if you removed the limits on her resources, she would not suck nearly as much. And as someone who already loves Robin, regardless whether she sucks or not, I think she's deserving of it. 58 is Corrin. No change here. Corrin is already pretty good, although no one asked for her. But I think she's deserving. It adds her up to another Fire Emblem game that we would not have otherwise. 59, Byleth. I love this character. She needs a tether grab, though. Her recovery sucks. I'm sorry. That recovery is god-awful. Either that or increase her jumps. That's the other thing you need to do. Either recovery or increase the jumps. Or not recovery. Either tether or increase the jumps. My bad. The Fire Emblem character I added, going all the way back to Marth's days, is Tiki. I had two other options. I was either going to add Lynn Cordelia from Fire Emblem Awakening, which I thought would have been cool because she's a Pegasus Knight. You could incorporate her Pegasus in there. Or I had Tiki. I think Tiki's more well-known, but I think any of those would have been welcome. Maybe not Cordelia, but that may be just me. I thought she was cool. I think either Lynn or Tiki would be welcome as a replacement for Roy. 61, Ice Climbers. They're safe. They were saved from cutting because they're the only character from their franchise. Ice Climbers in Melee were just broke. Bring that back. They aren't good in Ultimate, although I do like them. Captain Falcon. That blaster's been on his side for a while, hasn't it? Why hasn't he ever, used it? I would add it as his jab. Maybe it would be like a disjointed jab. And maybe that wouldn't work, but that's the only thing I could see to replace that would not make people mad. My other option was neutral B Falcon Punch. That would tick off a lot of people, including me, because I love that move. Then because Falcon Punch doesn't have super armor, so you can get hit out of it extremely easy. Unlike Warlock Punch. So I would either decrease the charge on it, which may not work because it wouldn't have time to say Falcon Punch, or I would give it super armor. Or maybe neither because of the next character I added. You remember how I said I reworked Ganondorf's moveset? I decided, and I got this idea from another video. I don't remember who, but it is not an original idea. I just will say that. 63, Black Shadow from F-Zero, which F-Zero may not be deserving of a second character slot, but if you up it up to 100, I think they would, or I think it would be okay. But an Echo Fighter of Captain Falcon using Ganondorf's old moveset before they added the sword. I think it could be pretty good. 64 is Ryu. I took Ken out and decided to make him an alt instead of an Echo Fighter. And here's who I replaced Zero Suit Samus with. 65, my girl, Chun-Li. I don't like that the only two Street Fighter reps we got were the two dudes, Ken and Ryu. Arguably, they are the faces of the franchise, but I just don't like it. 66, M. Bison. I wanted to add Cammy or Sagat or Akuma or Vega. Vega was an option. I also thought of adding Jury. But I think we are missing bad guys out of this game. And M. Bison is like the Street Fighter bad guy. 67, Terry. I think there's nothing wrong with Terry. He can stay. 68 is Little Mac. Give this man some hops. this man is a destructive force on the ground, but if you remove his feet from the floor, he's helpless. 69 is Sonic. My thought was like adding in a Chaos Emeralds gimmick. I would move his down B to his side B because that's the preferred spin dash for me, because you can charge it and make a very cool attack. Well, you can't really charge it, but you can repeat it and it winds it up. And side B is just kind of uncontrollable. But I would replace the side B with his down B and use down B to incorporate some sort of Chaos Emeralds gimmick, or at least make that his final smash, which I guess it kind of is. He summons them down and turns into Supersonic. And then for his side taunt, why the heck does he not say you're too slow? That taunt was amazing. And they ruined it. 70 is Tails. Sonic deserves another rep, but I was trying to figure out who it should be, and I think the best option here is Tails. My other thought was a Sonic Echo Fighter in Shadow, but I settled on making him a Sonic alt. Thought I heard something. 71 is Simon, with Richter as an alt, because Simon definitely deserves a spot. Richter, I think he definitely should be there, but I wouldn't have made him a separate fighter. I would have put him as an alt. My option to replace Richter is Trevor Belmont. I felt I had to replace him with another Belmont, and I like Trevor. And the reason I picked Trevor is he doesn't just have the Vampire Killer Whip, he has like an actual whip. And then he also has a sword. You can incorporate the Vampire Whip, or the Vampire Killer. You could also incorporate the Holy Water, stuff like that. But those two weapons would definitely make him different. My third Castlevania rep would be Alucard. I like Castlevania. It's a really cool game. I think it deserves 3 reps, especially in an upped roster where there's 100 characters. 74 is Snake. This man is slow, but like that's not the big problem. When you whiff a side B, the Nikita, Snake can't move. You're in an extremely open position if you whiff the Nikita side B. I'll let him move if you whiff it. Maybe that's supposed to be a punishment for throwing that out just kind of crazily, hoping it'd hit somebody. You whiff it, you can't move, you're open. But I don't like it. I always feel extremely vulnerable. 75, Mega Man. 76, X. 77, Zero. Especially Zero because of like the sabers that he uses. But between Mega Man and X, I think you could spread out the Robot Master abilities and maybe add some different ones. 78 is Bayonetta, who I was trying to think if there's anything I could do, and I had this to say. She's already too nasty for words. The only thing I would change about her is a Joan alt. Or Jean, or however you say it. I've always said it Joan because it's French. 78 is Shulk. In Xenoblade Chronicles, I looked this up. I did some research on this before I made this video. You can get other Monado arts. And I think 5 is an okay number, but you could give him more. There's options on that wheel that aren't covered. 80 is Pyra and Mithra. And in a roster where I was just going to go nuts, I thought of splitting them up and making them each kind of their own characters. Like I did the Pokemon trainer, but I did that because they can evolve now. Pyra and Mythra, when I lowered it down to 100, that enabled me to not make as many cuts. So I left them as their own thing. 81, Olimar. I was also going to split Olimar and Alpha up and give them each different Pikmin and stuff. And I think either Alpha or Olimar in one of the Pikmin games uses the jetpack as an FB to make them a little different. You could add that in on which character. I think it's Alf, but I think I would just use Olimar and keep Alpha as an Echo or an Alt if I were to do all these characters. Now for the retro reps. And these, I don't have anything to say about them, so I'll just go through. 82 is Pac-Man. Definitely deserves a slot. 83 is Rob, who I almost cut. 84 is Game & Watch, who I also almost cut. But I think it represents a whole system and has a slew of games. Rob only had 2. 85 is Duck Hunt, who I also almost cut. But since I didn't cut, I had a change I wanted to make. His side taunt. Why is there not the classic Duck Hunt, the dog laugh sound effect? Why? That's just a question I've always had. 86, my boy Cloud Strife. He either needs an increased jump or increased up B range. And then Cloud in Smash 4 was nasty. Bring back that Cloud. Sephiroth. Decrease landing lag on this man. In the World of Light, if you use a landing lag down spirit on Sephiroth, he is nasty. You can get crazy with him. And then I almost wanted to add in Aerith and Tifa. I thought about Barrett too, but I think with Final Fantasy VII, because that's what Smash brands it as, is just that one game instead of the whole series. It's only, you only really need the 2 big ones, Cloud and Sephiroth. 88, Sora. Spartan does not like Sora. And I think he's deserving of a spot, but I think he has issues. Mainly his stamina. This dude is the most puntable character in this entire game. You just can smack him around. Increase the stamina on this guy. He can't take a hit. You can dish him out fairly decently, but he can't take any. 89 is Hero. Dragon Quest is definitely a landmark title. I think it deserves a thing. I think it deserves a slot. My bad. But what I don't like is if you run out of mana and get knocked off the stage, you're dead. You are not coming back. I think he should always be able to recover at the very least. Or at least have his lowest level of recovery. Maybe not the full up B, but maybe have the lower level always be available to him even if he's out of mana. At least to give him some chance of coming back. Because right now, if you get knocked off the stage and you're out of mana, you're screwed. 90, Joker. I love Joker in this game, and Persona 5 is definitely deserving of a rep. Persona in general is deserving of a rep. But unless you have Arsene out, just run away. You're not going to hurt them. His damage output without Arsene is god-awful. Just up his base damage just a bit. I'm not asking for much because you don't want to have him be too overpowered. Not to mention his up grapple is terrible. But yeah, that's what I would change with Joker. Just up his base damage a touch to make him somewhat formidable without Arsene. 91. My option was Min Min originally, but I think I wanted to change it. I'm going to change it to Springman and then with a Ribbon Girl alt, because Min Min was kind of the odd choice for ARMS anyway, if you wanted to have an ARMS rep. I'm still curious why they chose Min Min, so I didn't. 92 is Steve from Minecraft. Definitely a game deserving of rep. I think they did a heck of a job with him. I suck with Steve, but I think he is deserving of a slot. And I don't think I would change anything on him. He is extremely strategic. You have to play smart. I just don't. Which is a strategy I do in Mortal Kombat, which is weird. 93, and the last character that was originally, well, the last franchise that was originally on the Smash roster is Kazuya. Tekken is another fighting game deserving of representation. But yeah, there's nothing I would change with Kazuya other than maybe his rage mechanic. If it activates during a hit, you get thrown way farther than you would by a normal hit without your rage activating. I have died to rage activation during a specific hit, where I wouldn't have died without the rage activating. That's a little infuriating. I just get my boost, and because of the fact that I got my buff, the buff is what killed me. Like, its trigger launched me farther than I should have been launched. That's a problem. 94, and this is where we get a little crazy. They made a Mii fighter of this character for the Mii Gunner. Why? He's so much more than a gunner. Bring in my boy from Devil May Cry, Dante. I love this guy, especially when I played Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Say what you will about that game, I have fun with it. And Dante is one of my main characters. He's so fun. His personality is amazing. I would also add a Virgil alt for his brother, because they would play. It's pretty similar. That makes sense. 95. This one's for you, Spartan, if you're listening. Sans from Undertale. I almost replaced him with someone else because I really just couldn't think of what you could do with him. But I didn't. I almost actually replaced him with Strider Hiryu from the Strider series. And I still would want that character. 96 is Chris Redfield from Resident Evil with Jill Valentine as an alt. He would just be an annoying zoner, but you could have some up close hand-to-hand combat. Shantae from the Shantae series. She would be extremely fun to use. And then we have next to no, actually, I don't think we even have any indie game representation. You could either do her or Hollow Knight. I wouldn't be mad at either. 98, Monster Hunter. And you would have a male and female alt for that one. 99, Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. And my 100, I had several options in my head for characters I wanted. Like I already mentioned, Strider. I think he would probably be my normal pick if I wasn't such a fan of this last franchise. My last pick is Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. You can't say you didn't see it coming. I even worked out a moveset for him. Neutral B would be his fire breath. Side B would be his get over here, the spear. Down B would be his flip kick, which was like where he flips and then catches you with a heel coming down. And up B would be his teleport. You could have other attacks using his katanas, or actually his flaming katanas, I should say. And for his grab, you would have a tether grab using his kunai. The moveset just writes itself. And I actually was, before I realized I made a mistake in the numbering, I was going to put Sub-Zero on this list as well. And I had a moveset worked out for him. But I decided not to when I figured out that I already had one character too many. But if I could go over, I definitely would put Sub-Zero on here. I would definitely put Strider Hiryu on here. Maybe some other characters that I've yet to think of. I think some Marvel characters would work great in Smash Bros., but they aren't video game characters. And that's one stipulation that Smash Bros. Had, is they have to appear in a game first. They didn't. They appeared in comics. Let's see. Other characters I cut were marks for Kirby that I didn't replace. I mean, who else did I cut? I was gonna have Decidueye and Giratina for Pokemon. I had Lynn and Cordelia, and I think Hector for Fire Emblem that I mentioned already. And other characters I was just going to split up and stuff like that. I had a lot of characters that I wanted to do. Then I thought, I really only want to stick with the Smash roster size. I don't want to go any bigger. Then I thought, you know what? Screw it, let's go bigger, because I messed up on my numbering and was at like 91 by the time I got everybody I really wanted, like from the Smash Bros. Roster franchises. Then I thought, you know what, let's go crazy, let's make 100, let's pick my top, like it was 10 or so at that point, of characters that I would want. And I did. Those characters I already mentioned were, Dante, Sans, Chris Redfield, Shantae, Monster Hunter, Arthur, and Scorpion. Like I said, I would add Strider, Hiryu, and Sub-Zero if I could, but I stuck with 100. But that's my roster that I would love for this game. I think I would also add Toad. I've seen some people that come up with some pretty interesting movesets for him. One of them was made by a channel that you probably well know if you're a Smash Bros. Fan, Alpharad, who made a joke that he could have a counter where he throws out Peach. You know what I call that? Sweet revenge. But that's it for this video. I just wanted to have fun and make this. Thanks for watching, and peace.